In high school coaching, a lot of the good stories come after the game. Sit back, watch, and listen to the journeys to the sideline and the stories of high school coaches. After the Game, presented by Baker Sports and High School 912.
I'm your host, Josh Baker, and today we've got a very special guest with us. We've got one of the winningest coaches in Florida high school history today, Coach Boswell. Congratulations on your big 500th a couple years ago and keeping on rolling.
Yeah, thank you. It's quite an accomplishment, but really what it leads to is I've had a lot of great players.
You have had some great players, but great players are also created as well. You got to take some of the credit. I know you don't like to do that, but you have to take some of the credit. So we'll get into some of those accolades as we get into the show. But first, just kind of want to start with you and what got you into the game of baseball and a little bit of your playing career early on.
Yeah, growing up in West Palm Beach, I kind of played everything. I was a football guy, played a little basketball, and a little baseball. And football was actually my first love. And baseball I was just better at.
Right.
And so kept playing. Both of them gave up basketball about middle school. And again, I thought I wanted to be a football player. I wanted to be a quarterback. I wanted to be, I don't know, the next Dan Marino. And it just kept going back to baseball, you were better. Baseball, I'm better. And when it came college time, it was like, okay, well, I guess baseball is my calling, so let me go that way. And then of course I loved both, but that's kind of how it unfolded in high school.
Yeah, and that's how it was, right? Back in the day when you and I were playing. Today, unfortunately, these kids are specializing and choosing a sport so early. I think we're missing out on some possible great players in other sports because they don't give it a chance.
Absolutely. And what's funny is talking to college coaches now, they are always asking, does he play something else? And I think there's still a lot of coaches out there that value the dual athlete, even though there's a lot of schools that just want them to specialize in one. So I'm not sure the right answer. I know what I did, and I know what I did with my boys, which was try to give them the best experience in both, just like you did. And then, wherever it unfolded. And for them, it happened in baseball too. So.
Well, and I can tell you as a parent, I do appreciate that about you. Is you not only say it, but you really mean it. You want the kids to go play other sports, and when they're not playing the other sport, then be with you in the baseball program. And I think that is, heck, it's not even – coaches aren't even hiding it anymore.
Yeah,
a lot in the high school. They don't want you playing another sport. They want you at least 9 months out of the year.
And I found when I've said that to some people, it kind of be like, no, we want them to play baseball year round. And I'm like, that's great, but, you should let them do some other things. We may have lost some players because I'm open about that. I don't mind, and I want to push guys to play multiple sports.
Yeah. All right, so baseball kind of chooses you, right?
Yes.
So then we leave Forest Hill High School and we head to Palm Beach State College.
Yep, Palm Beach State College. It was Palm Beach Junior College back then. Played on a really good team. Had a lot of good players around me, and just kind of went from out of high school, I was about a 5'10", 160, 65 pound skinny kid that only a couple junior colleges wanted out of high school. And then I started developing some skills a little bit better. I think I've always been a really hard worker, but started developing some skills with some good coaches. And it was funny, when I went back to Coach Giroux, who coached me in high school, he's like, when you're in high school, you really weren't ready to learn a lot of this stuff. And I was like, he's like, you were immature, but you had some tools, so we just let you play. And it kind of, it hit me like, wow, why didn't you just mention those things? I could have been better younger.
Right.
And but it developed into what it was, and so
do you
a couple years.
Do you understand that comment now better as a coach?
As I coach now, I do. But I did take that from that learning experience and be like, I'm going to try, even if it's over their head a little bit, or hey, this is going to come back to you. You're going to go, oh yeah, that's what Coach Boswell was talking about.
Right. So now, after the transition from high school to college, you said, obviously you grew, put on some weight, became a little more skilled. But what was the biggest difference?
Well, I'm going to kind of retract a little bit of what I said before about being a dual athlete, playing football and baseball. When I played football, I was a quarterback. And so instead of getting in the weight room with everybody else, I was out throwing on the field. So I never really got that in the weight room, knew what it meant, and got bigger and stronger. Weights were, I don't know if it was taboo back then, but the specialized guys they didn't do as much. So when I got to junior college, they were like, "Nope, you're gonna work out, you're gonna get bigger." And nutrition was nothing to me in high school, and that became dang, I want to go play at a higher level now. I want to go, not just go play at a junior college. I want to go play at a Florida, out of Miami. Those were kind of the big schools for me down there. And then, you look and go, yeah, I want to play professionally, but you never really, that was just kind of a pipe dream for me because I was just at a junior college at the time. So, but getting in the weight room and within 2 years, I was still growing too. So I grew into a 6'2", 185, 190 pound, big, stronger guy. So, and could still, really run, and developed a little bit more juice, and became okay, this guy can play a little bit.
Yeah. Primary infielder?
Primary shortstop, moved to third, moved to second, but yeah, all the infield positions.
So you were a hitter. If they're moving you around all those positions. They're trying to find somewhere.
They could find somewhere. I just wasn't. I guess when I got to pro ball, I wasn't Latin enough to play short.
Right.
Not that really mattered because there were still plenty of that. But they moved me to third and played a little second when some guys got hurt. So I could play all three of them.
So drafted by the Cubs.
Drafted by the Cubs
after 2 years at Palm Beach State.
2 years at Palm Beach. Yep.
Yeah.
I did get the Florida and the Miami's interested in me, and actually when they made some offers. I grew up with just a mom, and my mom was like, "Go do what you want to do. Go play where you want to play.
Right.
Don't you don't have to go to the best." And a bunch of my friends were coming to UNF who had just started a program, and Dusty Rhodes was the coach at that time. And he's like, Boz, we would love to have you, but I think you can go play at Florida. He had just left Florida. He goes, you could probably go play over there. And when it came into the day to decide, hey, where do I go? It was like, wow, I want to go play with my friends, and I want to go play for Coach Rhodes because he was a legend down in West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to go play there, even though it's a new program and all that. The big spotlight didn't matter to me. It was just a matter of being with my friends and playing baseball.
Yeah.
So
I got you, but the Cubs pulled the trigger.
The Cubs
stole you away.
Kind of that goes back to I got drafted, and first phone call was Coach Rhodes, and said, Coach, I don't know what to do. I really want to play pro ball, but I want to come play for you. And he was like, kind of, the phone went dead for a minute, and I was like, oh no, what's going on? And he said, Boz, I want you to come to UNF also. He goes, but you're ready to go play pro ball. You need to go make that. You need to go make that happen. Yeah. And I was like, wow, okay. Thanks, Coach Rhodes. I'm going to go ahead and sign. So that's what I did.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever told you a story, but he and I had a very similar conversation about coming back to play or diving in fully to the business that I started. Mine was a little different. He basically told me I wasn't good enough to go into business, but I always respected him for that conversation, and obviously helped me make the right decision.
That choice for you made a pretty good choice.
Yes, it did. So a couple years in pro ball.
Yep.
And then you decided you're done playing. And what was the draw to coaching?
I sure wish it was my decision to quit playing, but it was their decision to say, just wasn't good enough anymore. And, gave it 2.5 years of just, everything I had, and, had some great times, great memories, met some great people, great experience. And when you get released, and I got released in spring training, it's beginning of March, middle of March. They tell you, hey, by the way, your career's over, so go do something else. And it was just like very, I was like just like a lot of kids that think that they're going to be the next big leaguer. Kind of shocked, and what do I do with my life now? I've only got 2 years of school. Wow, what do I do? And I really didn't know what to do because.
22, 23, 22?
22.
22, yeah.
And I said, and my mom was like, just do whatever you want, honey. She just supported me like crazy. And, I've never had a Boswell in my family, graduate college. And so I was like, do I go back to school? All my friends are done with school now. Do I just get a job. What I don't know what to do. And again, going back to Coach Rhodes, he calls me on the phone and says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sitting on my mom's couch and contemplating my next step." And he goes, "Well, you should coach. Matter of fact, why don't you come on up here tomorrow?" And I was just like, what? And I was like, I have nowhere to stay. I don't know what. He was like, "You'll stay with me." And he took me in. For a guy that didn't even come to school with him, he took me in, put me in his apartment, and I basically for 3 months just followed him around and helped him do anything and everything I could at UNF. And it was just like, wow. And then, met some other guys, got my own place then, got back in school. Luckily the Cubs, back then a lot of guys signed, if you professionally, you get the education thrown on the back half. I kind of threw that in when our negotiations. They were like, yeah, we'll do that, knowing that only 8% of people take advantage of that education.
I knew the number was low. I didn't know it was that low.
I was shocked back then, and so I was like, well, I got that. Let me, I'm going to use that, and I'm going to go back to school. That's just free money, and so that's what I did, and I stayed at UNF for 3 years, 2.5 years, that half a year, and then 2 more years of school, and met a girl and got married, had kids, and became a high school coach.
So how long were you after you graduated UNF? Did you go straight into high school coaching?
I actually no, yes, but no. I actually after I was in grad school, thinking I was going to be a college coach, and like I said, got married and got the tap on the shoulder of, we're going to have a baby. And I was like, wow, okay, then that means I got to get a real job. And I had my education behind me, so took a job at Southside Middle School as a PE coach, and did that for a semester. And then Paxson, Tammy Talley gave me a call and said, "Hey, do you want to come take over this program?" And I was like, "Sure." I was a young coach and just wanted to coach, and did that. So I did that for a year, and then Englewood came knocking the next year, and then Bolles came knocking a couple years after that. So that's kind of how it all unfolded.
So I didn't know about the Paxson year.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that's where it started. So first time as a head coach, Paxson High School. How was that experience?
That experience was, believe it or not, extraordinary.
Sure.
And I say that because here I was. This is before they were a magnet school, and I go over there, and the season had already started. The coach got in trouble.
Oh no!
And let go, and I was they were like, come take over, and I was like, I'm a young guy, I'll go do that. And I went over there, and it was, I go out there, and I had some kids that were just kind of lost. They had, I'm just playing baseball because it's something to do. Wait, you're going to practice every day? You want us to show up on Saturday? Half of them had jobs. Half of them couldn't drive, so they couldn't get to practice. And I would, for the ones that, I understood if you had to work, you had to work. I would drive my truck. I had a Ford Ranger, and I ended up would drive down McDuff and pick up about 3 or 4 kids every Saturday morning, and I'd bring donuts, and we'd eat donuts and practice, and they just loved it It was really neat to watch how the love of the game came out in these kids, and who, I didn't know the coach before, so I don't know what he did or taught, but just having fun again, and I was young and energetic, and just wanted to be out on the field having a good time, and they were awesome, and we ended up having some really good players. 2 of them went over to Blackie Junior College and had pretty good careers. One is one of the best umpires in the city, Terrell Poole.
Okay, yeah.
So he was one of my first, and great kid, and now he's great man. And I wasn't much older than him at the time. I think I was 25, 26 when I took over, and he was 18, 19, and so I was more like the big brother than I was a father figure or a coach. But they hadn't had a winning season in for a very long time. and we ended up being 14-14, and it was one of the highlights of my career, being the first year and just watching these kids, just play, and it was really neat.
Yeah. So that experience had to be way different than when you step on at Inglewood.
It definitely was way different, and when Inglewood came knocking, they traditionally had good players, good teams, and I had actually done my internship there. That's kind of how I got to know Maurice Bacon, the AD, and I've always known Jack Spencer because we worked at UNF together, and got to meet a lot of those people, and so that's when they came knocking after they released Jack from his position, I was like, wow, I'm in the big leagues now. I'm going to Inglewood. And we had we had some good teams, and it was really fun.
Because Jack was the man in Jacksonville at that point.
He was the man. He had done some good things for not just Inglewood baseball, but
Jacksonville baseball.
Baseball as a whole. Absolutely. Built a complex, and it was did a lot of things for a lot of kids back then.
Yeah. So
he was one of the staples. With the Rolands and.
Howard May.
Those were the guys. That's who I looked at, would be like, they're the man.
Yeah, so, especially in the public school world at that point.
Yes. Yeah. And that was, Don Siriano was at Bolles at the time, but, I only really knew the public system because that's, where I grew up in, and didn't really know much about some of the private schools.
Well, and public school baseball was so good.
It was really good.
So good really at that point.
The Sandalwood School, early, and there were some good public schools.
Yeah, we won't talk about what Rusty Green over there at Sandalwood. All right, so you step into a dugout at Inglewood with some really good talent. Yeah,
it was really nice. Randy Harden was the leader on our pitching staff, and we were in a really good district with Bishop Kenny and Bolles, and we competed very well with them, and the level of talent that I went from at Paxson, who those guys just wanted to play. These guys already knew the game, and they just needed to. I kind of basically all coaches are a little bit different. We all do things a little bit different, and it was kind of a challenge at first for buying into a newer system than what Jack had in. And I say a newer system. It was a copied system from Coach Rhodes and what he did and how he did it, and because being under him for 3 years, I thought I knew baseball, and even playing professionally baseball, I thought I knew baseball when I came back. And the 3 years I was with Coach Rhodes, it was like, wow, I didn't know anything about baseball. Yeah,
right.
I didn't know anything, about, everything, inside the dugout, outside the dugout, all.
Was the Inglewood experience closer to you coaching at UNF than it was coaching at Paxson?
Oh, well, without a doubt. I had to go way, way backwards. When I got to Paxson, we had to go over basics as far as, moving your feet, how to move your feet and catch, how to bunt, that bunt. What's a bunt? I don't even know what a bunt is.
Right.
Hit and run, what? What is that? So it was just, it was a lot different, and it was, like I said, it was like I went to the big leagues when I went over to Inglewood to coach.
And that was that?
95.
95.
Yeah.
Okay. So
95 or 96, one of those.
I remember.
No, 96. It was 96 season because 95 was my first year at Paxson.
Okay. So because I remember it being at West Nassau, and I graduated in 97, but it was 95 or 96, and there was a district tournament at Bishop Kenny, and it was loaded.
Yeah.
And Bolles had Klosterman. Bishop Kenny was loaded. Were you coaching at Inglewood at that time?
I was.
The two arms. Was it Burkholtz and Barnes?
Burkholtzer. B.J. Burkholtzer and Patrick Barnes. Yep. They were pretty good arms too.
They were really good arms
at a pretty high level. So
yeah, that was a crazy talented district.
It was.
Yeah. You won that district, did you not?
I don't think I won the district for a couple years.
Okay.
We got knocked out with some good teams. I think 96 and 97 we didn't win it till 98.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
Yeah.
98 with
that's when Brett Myers came over and Siriano came over. He came over the next year in 99, and so.
Okay. So you had Brett for 2 years or
3?
3.
Yeah.
Okay.
He came over in 97. So as a sophomore.
I gotcha. So you had him, and now was Frill gone?
Friel was gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was gone before you got there?
Yeah, he was gone before I got there. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So coaching Brett. We all know Brett, the singer, the big leaguer, the personality he is. How was he in high school?
He was awesome. He was very, very intense. I mean, everything he did was hard. I mean, he brought a different level to these guys because he had more energy than anybody I'd ever been around. He didn't have a great body when he first got there, and his dad and him really turned that body around. I mean, he was when I first met Brett, we were in junior high at Southside Middle School, and sorry, and he was a short, pudgy kid, and you saw that arm and went, "Wow, that arm really works." And then he kept growing, getting bigger, stronger. And he really turned, when he was a ninth grader over at Bolles and turned that Seriano and working with Seriano. And like I said, his dad was a trainer and really got him into great shape. And so, I mean, he had a battery that, never turned off. And he was infectious with everybody else because everybody else had to try to keep up with him.
Right.
And he just took it to the next level with his competitiveness, with his, desire to win and be the best. And his drive just to be out on the field at all times.
And that ended up driving that team, right?
It sure did. I mean, we kind of everybody else, we still had some really good players. There were other players that were really good too. Derek Nunley gets drafted in the 7th round. First couple of years, Jason King was a very good player.
Was Kevin Johnson part of that team?
Kevin Johnson was a part of that team. Our catcher was Jonathan Smith, who to this day is probably the toughest catcher I've ever been around. And I've coached some pretty good catchers.
Yeah.
This kid was unbelievable. I mean, he caught, Brett throwing 96, 97, Derek Nunley throwing 96, 97. Then he'd turn around and catch Charlie Farah, who was throwing, 68, and make it look easy. And I'll never forget that he caught Brett throws one inner half, he kind of rides it out and takes his glove off and looks at his thumb. And I'm like, "You all right? You all right?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Come to find out, he's broken his thumb. And I'm like, "Buddy, you can't catch. We gotta find another way." Da da da. He's like, "No, I'm catching." And I'm like, "No, we'll figure it out." And sure enough, he goes to the doctor. They build him some kind of plastic plate, and they release him to play with a broken thumb. And he caught the whole year with a broken thumb, and It was unbelievable. And he hit with it. I mean, he was just like, you're not taking me out of this lineup,
right?
And thank God, because I don't think we had another one back there that could catch all those guys.
Yeah, that's a crazy staff.
Yeah, it was crazy good.
So was Nunley a 99 as well?
He was a 99.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Seriano came over in 99, so that brings us another arm that was going to UNF and played first with Brett, and I mean it was a team that could have competed with anybody.
Yeah. So talk about that season, the state championship season.
Yeah, it was outstanding. We had up and down our lineup was just I was telling my Bolles team the other day, I said when I would wait till the other team came to Inglewood to throw BP to that last group, because back then, I'm not sure if you remember 99, those bats were crazy.
The drop fives.
The ball just flew off those bats. I really thought Brett was going to kill somebody because he hit balls so hard.
Right.
I was scared for the third baseman. I used to back way up because I'm like, I was young and could get out of the way, but I was like, I'm not even going to try to get out of the way because he hit the ball so hard. And it was in that group was Nunley, Myers, Johnson, a kid named Ross Clifford, who ended up going to junior college and then going to Embry-Riddle, and those guys put on a show like you wouldn't believe. I mean, we had in left field we had it's still there, a hill with a cage on top of the hill, and then in the right field there was that big wall that we had that behind it was the driver's ed. And I used to send guys, all right, 5 guys, I want you guys to go way over there because we need those balls back because we were Inglewood. We didn't have a ton of money. But they would put on a show, and It was the other team was defeated most of the times when they came over and watched that BP for those 5 guys. It was like just wow, because they would hit balls. I mean, Brett and Nunley hit balls on the football field,
Right.
and I mean, and that's just a poke. And Johnson could just hit. It was pretty special. Pretty special.
Was that your first experience having to manage a team more than coach a team?
Absolutely. That was Brett was a handful to manage. In school, out of school. Keeping him, as as good a player as he was. He was just a little wild and crazy, and he knew he had a ton of talent. And Nunley came over from Terry Parker, because he got in trouble over there. And then Siriano came over from Bolles, and I guess that's when the transfer portal opened up. Was back then. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I thought Jack created it or Maribel, but it sounds like you did.
No, I just followed suit, and those guys. They finally started coming with us because everybody wanted to come play with Brett Myers, and,
right?
Just because he was that special, and he had a lot of connections with those other good players, and they just they all just wanted to play together. So it was really neat. It was, but yeah, we had some. There was a couple days where I had to send Brett Myers home just because that excitement, that drive, and that, and he just got I'd have to pull him back a little bit and send him
check
home.
and balance system,
so I could do a practice, and but it was always he'd always come back and apologized and understood, and it always worked out well.
Yeah, and I've seen through the years you guys still have a special relationship.
We do.
He supports you even even now at Bolles. He
Absolutely,
still supports everything you do. It's
Absolutely.
really cool.
We get to coach together. We coach together sometimes during the summer. Watching his kids grow up now, and we developed a special bond over those years.
That's outstanding, and it resulted in that 1999 first state championship.
Yeah. And it's the last state championship from a public school in Duval County.
That's
in
right.
Baseball.
I forgot about that. That's been a long time.
Crazy,
It's way
pretty
amazing how. So, speaking of private schools, before we get into the bowl segment, we're going to take a little break here. So, we'll be back with more with Coach Boswell here on After the Game.
Baker Sports is local sports. Uniforms from Pop Warner and Little League to travel ball, high school, and college. They make you look good. They help you play good. Baker Sports has been helping families make memories that will last a lifetime with their Baker's Buckets. We've got a lot of these filled with baseballs and softballs in the garage. I've been throwing batting practice to Ty and Kaylee for years, and also sit on the Baker's Bucket, catching Kaylee while she practices her pitching. Yeah! Baker Sports is homegrown, and a lot of employees that used to play on local ball fields now work for Baker Sports, now helping you look good, play good, and make memories of your own. Visit Bakersport.com to see what Baker Sports can do for you. Custom apparel, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, embroidery, screen printing, and more. Baker Sports is local sports. From Jacksonville to anywhere in the Southeast. Bakersport.com.
Here on Spring Sports Media Day on Action Sports Jax.
It's an opportunity, an education beyond the classroom and the sports arena. Life skills, testing skills, social skills. It's called High School 912, a program focused on maximizing the growth of students in academics, sports, and life. And here's your chance to get involved. If you're a local business, or if you just want to make a donation to help support programs like ACT and SAT boot camps, career days, Leadership Academy, Financial Literacy Academy, and so much more.
Another Nice High School Panther, Jack Cole.
High School 912 supports and hosts high school sporting events and several media days throughout the year. For more information on how you can get involved, visit jaxhighschool912.com.
In high school coaching, a lot of the good stories come after the game. Sit back, watch, and listen to the journeys to the sideline and the stories of high school coaches. After the Game, presented by Baker Sports and High School 912.
Welcome back to After the Game here with Coach Boswell. And now it's time to transition from the public school guy who won the last state championship in Jacksonville in 1999 to Bolles Boswell. So tell me about the transition there. Get the call.
Yep, got the call. Actually, It's a lot different than what people think. I really didn't get the call from Bolles to come coach baseball. What happened there? They wanted me to coach, but they already had a coach, and Storm Davis was the coach at the time, and they had an opening in the boarding program, and I knew that I wanted my kids to go to school there. They were just at the age of starting school, and I knew, being around the Inglewood part time, being around Bolles part time, because my wife ex-wife was a teacher coach there, and seeing those kids on occasions, I was like, wow, that's where my kids need to be, just because they were so well-rounded, athletically, academically. I knew that was going to be the path for my kids' future. So when the opportunity came to move into the dorm, I actually gave up coaching for a year. 2001, I gave up coaching to move into the dorm and be a better dad and be around them. I really wanted to coach, and Bolles and Storm Davis wanted me to coach, but I couldn't. I was still teaching at Inglewood, and I wasn't going to teach at Inglewood and coach at Bolles. I just felt that wasn't fair, for me, for them, for my kids at Inglewood. And so I really wanted to try this dorm concept, and so I did for a year, and then Storm Davis stepped away, and I thought maybe, they would entertain bringing me in to be the head coach, but they had already had a guy in mind, John Newman, who was, went to school there, played there, went to Vanderbilt. He was kind of the next in line, and he took the job, but he came to me and said, "Hey, I'm only going to take this job on one condition, that you come and be a part of Bolles baseball." So I'm like, "John, I will come be a part of Bolles baseball, but I can't work at Inglewood and coach here." And he goes, "Okay, let me work on that." And like a couple hours later, I get a call from the headmaster at Bolles, and they came over and said, "Tell me what you make, what you want to do." And I taught biology at Inglewood, and they were like, "Well, we don't have any openings there. Why don't we do this?" And so they created a position which was director of security, which is now a really important position. But
right.
And 2002, it was just I'm not sure if we need this or not. But I held the dean's office, which John Newman was the dean, so I basically helped him and kind of drove a golf cart around, just keeping all those rowdy Bolles kids in order.
Right.
Back then. So, and that's how I started at Bolles. Was John's assistant for a couple years. We actually won a state title one of those years, and then after 2 years, John, was like, "Hey, you're basically running this team, so why don't I step away and you step up and take over the program?" And kind of that's how it unfolded.
So it's interesting. So one of the main topics on this podcast has been with coaches. It seems to always evolve every episode into how you change as a coach as your kids get older, right? And you want to be part of them. And so your situation is a lot more like Toblin's than I expect, because Toblin's like, look, when I started coaching, I didn't have kids, and then when the kids came, it was like, I got to be home for my kids because I want to be. My wife wants me there, and I want to be there. And then I come to Bolles, and it's like I'm always home. Like I'm living in the dorms, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. Is that what you saw when you got back into coaching?
It is, and it was a huge determining factor, because when I actually left college coaching, I knew the ropes of college coaching and knew that it was a very, very difficult lifestyle if I wanted to be a dad. And I told you at the beginning of the podcast that I grew up with just my mom, so I never had a dad in my life ever. And so coaches were my lifeline.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that when I got that tap on the shoulder saying you're going to be a dad, I went, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to be the best damn dad I can be." I don't know if I was. You can ask my kids, but I tried to be, but I was there for them at all times, still there for them, and it was something that, even when I started at Bolles, I got some phone calls on, trying a different route, and it was always thanks but no thanks, because I wanted to be a part of their lives at all time. And coaching the high school route gave me that opportunity to be around them all the time.
Right.
So.
And we'll touch on them again here in a couple of minutes as the Bolles years progress, because there's an interesting deal there. You get to coach the boys later on. But before the boys are ready to coach, you take over at Bolles as the head coach in what, 03, 04?
04.
04.
Yep.
All right. So it'd been the assistant, and I was part of that team. And John would tell you the same thing. I won't say. I mean, he was the CEO. You did a lot of the coaching.
Yeah.
You were the general manager on the field. He did all the organizing off the field, and he was phenomenal at that.
Yeah,
by the way.
he was great. We actually called him the Dobo, which is Director of Baseball Operations,
Right.
which he ran tremendously.
So there wasn't a ton of change on the field as you became the head coach versus the assistant.
Correct. Yeah, it just kind of, John still stayed, and he became actually our JV coach because he wanted to coach, he wanted to be involved. He just knew that it was, probably in the best interest that, he kind of just step aside. And I think he got his feet wet and was like, it's not as big a deal to him as it was for a lot of other of us.
Right.
And so he's like, that's why he was like, you go and, you want to do this for the rest of your life. I really don't want to do this for the rest. So, that's kind of where he backed away. And he was a, big time football coach at the same time. So he really was torn between football and baseball. So he wanted to.
Corky wasn't as forgiving as you would be on his
no.
assistants.
No. So, I remember they were going on a trip as a coaching staff, and we had another Rodney Drayback coach football and baseball also, and he's like, yeah, he's making us go, and I'm like, John, what are you going to do? He's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And here we were, he's the head coach, and he's like, I got to listen to Coach Rogers because he's,
right.
he's the
he's
guy.
the man. Yeah.
And so he ended up not going, but it was, kind of neat to watch that unfold. So, but John did a great job. It was awesome working with him.
Yeah. So working at Bolles at that time, I mean, you had. There was a gap between Suriano now, a long enough gap where he's kind of out of the shadow. You're not under his shadow.
Right.
You're between Storm and then John taking over.
Yeah.
But on campus, I mean, you still got Corky. You've got Matt Morris as the AD, legendary wrestling coach.
Yeah.
I mean, were you able to pick up things from those guys and learn from them?
Oh, my God. A tremendous amount. I was, talking about my kids. They were football players also, and I told you I love the game of football. So, I was there all the time watching practice and watching how he works. And he was just such a student of the game, Coach Rogers was, and knew anything and everything there was going on in the football field. It was unbelievable. I'd never been around anybody with that much knowledge and the drive to win and the push to win. And, yes, I learned a ton about him and his ability to go, you know what, we're going to play anybody and everybody at any time, anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and he goes, Boz, that's what's going to make you ready for the end. And I was like, well, I always wanted to play the best because, I thought my teams, I want my teams to be the best, so I want to play the best. And knowing that we're, not usually the best, but just want to, I love the challenge. The kids love the challenge. It kind of makes them step up. And it's and that was one of the things that I learned from him. Besides the the dedication, the hard work, the showing up every day, no matter what. And he was old when I started there and kept going. And it was just amazing to watch him work. Great coach. Great coach.
Outstanding coach. So all right, so head coach, state championship '99, assistant coach, state championship in '02. Take over the reins. Have a lot of success as the head coach at Bolles. All right, then Bo steps on the field, right?
Yes.
And it becomes a different dynamic for you guys. I'm assuming as father-son, as well as you as a coach.
Yeah, no doubt, it definitely did. And I thought that I would be able to do I thought I would be able to be politically correct and do the right thing because Bo is he worked his tail off. He didn't have the most talent, but he worked his tail off, wanted the opportunity to play. And, I thought I could be, what's the right word? fair to everybody. And there were a couple people that didn't think that was the best for Bolles baseball and or Mike Boswell. So they kind of called me in and was like, hey, we're thinking we want to do this. And I was like, no, I'm the head coach. I want to keep doing this. I got it. And then, so they said, we'd like for this to happen. We'd like for that to happen. And I was like, no, I got it. I can do this. And at the end of the day, talked to a lot of good people. And Matt Morris, you spoke to him. We talked. And he was like, Boz, why just take a back seat? You'll still be able to coach baseball. You'll still be able to do this. Just, And in the big picture, it was like, why do I coach? I to be with kids and coach. So I was like, okay, I can do this. And, and Storm was great because he was already there. So he took back over, or, he was the head coach before I got there. And he took back over for a couple years. And I guess the one of the reasons I was like hesitant because going into those years, we had a team coming back that was just loaded. And I knew we were going to be loaded for the next couple of years. And so I really wanted to, be the head coach, which is huge. But the biggest thing was just to be a coach with those guys because we were really good. And it was fun to be around those kids. So.
Well, and that's kind of what I was getting to because a lot like John, Storm would tell you the same thing, that you were as much of a head coach on the field with that team. So, to win – I'm assuming it helped you to step back, and you probably got to enjoy Bo a little more than you would.
It really did. It really did. And like I said, and you're correct. Storm let me. He knew that we had a pretty good product going, system going, and because he intertwined his system with my system, and we even the years before we were solid. We were good. We had good players. I think we had a pretty good system, and and he just added that much more, and he was a much more calmer head coach than I was back then. So maybe we bounced off each other, pretty good. But yeah, he let me do, he took care of the pitchers. He's like, you do this, I'll write the lineup, and you coach third, you hit infield, you put in all our bunt defenses and stuff. So he really let me do my thing, and I didn't have to talk to any parents, and I just sat back and I was the players' coach, and it was fun to be a part of, and it didn't put as much pressure on Bo when he was there, so that was fun too.
And so you went back to back in 09 and 10.
We did.
Now was Bo part of both those, or was he just on the 09?
He was part of the 10.
Okay, the 10.
He played JV the 9 year. He was and in the 10th grade he was just a JV player. Then he came up the next year.
Gotcha.
So.
All right, so then you take back over in 11?
Yeah, and that was actually Bo's senior year.
Okay.
And so I did get to coach Bo as a senior. That was Bo, Slater, that group. And, Bo and Slater are still really good friends to this day. But I got to coach that group, and it was after the 9 and 10, that teams were, like I said, outstanding. This team was pretty good. Coming back, and then Slater breaks his ankle and misses his entire senior season, which he was a guy that was gonna play short, hit third, hit
future
500, future big leaguer, and also he threw 90-92 from the mound too. So I lost that for the entire year. So we had a average year in regards to Bolles baseball. So and then I took over and took back over. Because Storm at that time chose to go to the pro route. So he wanted to go be a pro coach, and was like, I got this opportunity, and I'd like to, on paper we were like, all right, Storm, if you could do this for this many more years while my kids get through here, that would be wonderful. And then he was like, Boz, I got to go. I got this opportunity. It's something I really want to do, and that's what he did. He chose to go to pro ball, and then Bolles gave me back the head job.
Yeah. So 09-10 was also DJ, right?
It was. Yep. He graduated. Yeah. He was coming through.
So
he was young. He was a young, ninth grader coming up through that time.
Right. And probably the last big two-way guy at Bolles, right? That I can think of.
You talking about Hayden?
Oh, Hayden. Yeah, you got Hayden. Hayden
Yeah.
was
He was DJ's year.
okay. So both of them, right?
Yep.
You don't see those type of football, baseball players anymore.
No. I wish we did.
Right.
Those guys, and like we were talked earlier about the football, baseball thing. I knew when those guys, when they played for Coach Rogers on Friday night, and then came over to Bolles baseball in the spring, I was like, these guys are ready. They've seen the bright lights on Friday night. So,
Right.
They're being scared or being nervous or what. That was not a part of them. And, so those guys just stepped right over. And, obviously, Hayden was an NFL guy and still is. And DJ, being the big leaguer, knew that he was a future big leaguer.
All right. So Brett, Slater, DJ, 3 big leaguers, and Hayden, an NFL guy. Similar personalities?
Actually, no.
Right.
Probably all 3 of them were way different.
Mm-hmm.
DJ came to the park every day. Wasn't a big talker. He just worked his tail off and played the game. And could, obviously, big league hitter, was the best offensive guy I've ever been around. Guys just couldn't get him out. He hit balls hard. I mean, you walked him. He wasn't fast, but he's still a base.
Mm-hmm.
Still second, still third, because he knew how to play the game.
And a competitor.
Oh, unbelievable competitor, and he brought that to the other guys. Again, all those big time names, they bring different things to the table, and people feed off that. So
right. They make their teammates better.
They definitely make their teammates better. Yep.
I got you.
So
interesting.
And then Hayden Hurst was. As far as a baseball player, he had a big time arm, and from a young age, and didn't play football till his junior year. He played football in middle school. Then he took a couple years off. They told him what a big, how big he was going to be, as a draft pick. And then he went and played football for a season and gave up football and came back to just baseball, and then got drafted by the Pirates. So
and then went back when baseball didn't work out.
Baseball didn't work out. Went back to
South Carolina,
South Carolina, and now he's in the NFL.
Had a great career.
Just a superior athlete, one of the best pure athletes I've ever been around.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So, yeah.
All right, so you went back to back in 09-10, take back over, several successful years, and then again we get to, I'll go ahead and call him a big leaguer. A lefty named Barco rolls on the campus. With a lot of really good players to go around him.
Yeah.
And a playoff format that really fit what you had.
It's set up to, for me to go, here you go, Hunter, go get him.
Right.
And, he would pitch 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 5 playoff games.
Right.
And, to get us to the final game. And for a couple years in a row. It was, 3 years in a row. And it was kind of that's why when they were discussing turning this playoff system, I was like, yeah, we really need to go to the new playoff system because, we were good as a team, but with him on the mound, we were a great team. Mm-hmm. And that's with a lot of teams. They could take one guy and just ride him the whole way into at least a state runner-up. And, we did that for 3 years in a row, and he was, by far the best arm I've, the consistency that he threw for those 3 or 4 years was unbelievable. He pitched for me as an 8th grader.
Right. So
I only had Brett for 3 years. And he was a power guy. He was this, but Hunter just pitched, and it was unbelievable to watch guys just not be able to square him up ever.
I remember being around the field during those runs, and you would have to have simulated games each week so that the guy that you knew was going to throw the state championship game could get reps.
Yeah, it was really neat. We did. We actually would, the day after, I knew, Hunter would pitch on Tuesday, Wednesday at practice. We would have a simulated game. So, we had 2-3 guys pitching that I knew that would pitch in the state championship game if we were lucky enough to get there. And so it was kind of interesting. It was hard to keep those guys motivated and in games, knowing that, hey, you're not going to pitch for 3 weeks in a game, but I'm going to need you to pitch in the championship game.
Right.
And which, looking down the road, you shouldn't look down the road as much. But, each time we won, it was like, okay, we got to get ready for this. Hey, we got to get ready for this. and Hunter was just so dominant that we rode into the final game 3 years in a row with him.
And a couple good offensive players, Austin Knight, Max Ferguson, guys like that to go with him.
It's obviously not one guy. I mean, he got it done on the mound. He kept us in every game, but we were solid at all. And the whole team was solid. I mean, we had like the two guys you just named, Austin Knight, Max Ferguson. Those guys were phenomenal players, offensive players. Every game I knew those two guys were gonna be responsible for 2 or 3 runs, and that's all Hunter needed.
Right.
So
that's incredible. So looking at the numbers here, all right. So just since you got to Bolles, we've got 4 state titles. Right?
Yes.
4 state titles.
5.
5. Oh, I'm sorry. 5 state titles. I forgot the first one there with John.
Yeah.
5 state titles. 8 Final Fours, and 12 district titles.
Yes, and 1 state runner-up, 18.
One state runner-up.
Yep.
So, I mean, you've been pretty good once you get there, finishing it off.
It's like, going back, what we've been talking about, these players that we've had the opportunity, I've had the opportunity to come through Bolles baseball. It's been really, really special. And, when you get the guys that we've named and you've gone through, those guys just bring other guys and games up a notch. And it's been really special. It's I've been blessed with having the opportunity to coach at Bolles. I've been blessed with the opportunity to coach these players, and I've had a ton of great assistant coaches that have come through that are leader among men, and it's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the game's changed, right? The game's changed a lot last 3-4 years.
It's I don't like to say the game's changed. I think people might have changed a little bit. The game's still the same when we get out there to play it. But with travel ball and the transfer portal and people not being happy and leaving the next, just a lot of things have changed. Yes.
How do you manage to keep the same drive and enjoyment of the game amongst everything that's changed?
Well, I was told a long time ago. I wish I could give the person the credit, but I forget who exactly told me this. He said, "Boz, coach the guys that show up and let the guys go that don't want to be a part of it." And so I've kind of, each year I go into it and I'm like, if anybody leaves, I'll miss them. I wish them the best of luck. But, and whoever shows up in, August, let's go to work and be the best we can be. And I haven't, we've had some guys come and go over the years, but not, I feel good about not losing as many as others have lost and gained, I guess. But I just try to show up every day with who I have and the coaching staff that we have, and give them the best we can, and go out, still play the competitive schedule that we can play, and play as hard as we can for as long as we can.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, I told you it would go fast.
Go fast.
So we got to wrap up here. But one thing I always like to close on, I ask every coach comes on the podcast, if you could give first-year head coach Boswell one piece of advice, what piece of advice would you give a young coach?
I guess now that I'm older, it was all about X's and O's and what you knew and what you could teach. And I really think now it's about, if I could give advice, is build that relationship. Yeah. Build a relationship with the kid, and it's unbelievable what they can do for you. If and you and I have talked about this. If they believe that they can do something, it's unbelievable what they can do.
That's awesome. Well, as a store owner, I appreciate your loyalty over the years.
Absolutely.
After a dad, I appreciate how you've handled my boys and the consistency that you've had, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck.
I'm not sure if you remember, I'm one of your first customers ever.
Absolutely.
You know what that means? We're getting old.
We're getting really old. Exactly. Coach, thanks for joining us on After the Game. Good luck this season, and especially the next 2 seasons as you try to control that little Baker guy.
Absolutely. It's going to be fun.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Coach.
You.
Bye.
Get local sports on demand with Action Sports Jax 24/7. All sports, all local, all the time. From the locker room to the field, the Jax high school football, the Jacksonville Armada, and don't forget the Brett and Austin Show.
They're all in on Trevor.
Of course. Download the Action News Jax Now app, available wherever you stream or at actionnewsjax.com. TV, phone, laptop, desktop. Action Sports Jax 24/7. Jacksonville sports all the time.